get into the 60s, and Gibson introduces the Hummingbird, 1960. It's kind of a folky thing, kind of a love and peace kind of guitar. It has that look. What amazes me is literally since 1960 when this guitar was introduced to the market, other than the J45, this has been our second biggest selling guitar. You know, it's got a pretty unique look. The pickguard, the color, it's you know, you would think that that would limit the market to this guitar, but it's amazing, and it's just because it works. I was final inspector at the Gibson Acoustic Factory for almost 2.5 years, and during that time I literally played pretty much every Gibson guitar made during that time period. And every day, that time we were doing like 50 guitars a day, and I'd just tune up the guitar when it came to me, and I'd strum and hit a chord. And it was amazing how often on any given day my favorite guitar was a Hummingbird. I know a lot of that's personal preference, but the reason that they're successful and the reason that we haven't changed them is just this combination of what we call a square shoulder dreadnought, which is almost more like a little bit more of a Martin type body style. It's a short scale like a 45, the woods, the mahogany, the spruce. It's just... It works, I don't. But it's just a wonderful, wonderful representation of the 60s and Gibson. A lot of people ask what's the difference between a Hummingbird and a Dove, because they're both very traditional guitars from the same time period. Doves, well, the two main differences, the Dove is maple, whereas a traditional Hummingbird is rosewood. And the Dove has the long scale, 25.5-inch scale, where this is 24 3/4. The Dove is more made for the guy that's going to be, was originally introduced for the country guy that's going to be strumming. This was the guitar that was made for the folk guy that's going to do the finger style, thus the short scale. The mahogany reacts a little better to the lighter touch playing. But structurally, the bodies are exactly the same, but some visual differences. But anyway, that's just a little sidebar there, because I get asked that question a bunch. The Hummingbird works great. Once again, the modern version has a pickup, Grover tuners. There is a vintage version in the acoustic room that you got to play. That also has the thermally aged top, the torrefied, so to speak, top. And if you play them side by side, you really will appreciate what that process does to the instrument. It's a wonderful thing. We do put a premium on those because there's a lot of expense involved in getting those tops done that way. That guitar also comes in a period correct brown case, which is really cool. But the Hummingbird just works. One of the things, and just another side note on where we are not afraid to get away from our history just a little bit to satisfy the modern player and people like yourself. One of the things that happened with a lot of the Hummingbirds from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and you've seen this, the pickguard design sometimes would wear off from people just playing it because it was like either a hot stamped or a hand-painted thing. So we thought, okay, this is the modern version of this guitar. Let's make everything a little better. We found a company that created a pickguard that actually has a 60,000 sheet of clear over the design. So from 3 feet away, it looks just like the original, but it's impervious. It will never wear off. So that's just the kind of things that we always look to use technology that's available to make things a little better. Yes, ma'am.
I got confused. Was either the Dove or the Hummingbird rosewood?
No. We have done variations, of course. Over the years, we've pretty much tried everything at least once. And we've done limited runs of Doves and Hummingbirds in rosewood, but as part of the main product line, no. Don't know why. We've done rosewood. We did a guitar called the J60 a few years back, and that was a square shoulder rosewood guitar. And it really just didn't catch on. I think that it was maybe too much. We made it to kind of go after that Martin D28 guy, and those guys are going to buy Martin D28s, so there's no sense in going after a client base that isn't yours. We have a Hummingbird, they don't. They have a D28, we don't. So we just kind of stick with your strengths, so to speak. So we've kind of stayed away from the rosewood square shoulder guitar for that very reason. Going to take a step even back in time now, 1937.